So we've got the basic elements of our sign up form all set up here. So we've got two text fields, one that's focused and one that's the default state. We can make sure that we can kind of reorganize these layers just so that they're kind of reading down the page. This group that we created is for the button, so we'll put this at the bottom. Rename this group button for now. And then this is our back button. You can see that at the end of the title of the layer. But we'll move sign up and back to the very top. So now it goes from system keyboard, which is on the very top in the layers, but kind of makes sense for me actually because we want that to be above pretty much everything else. It's never possible on the iPhone for the keyboard to be below another element. But yeah, then we have the status bar at the very top, the back button, sign up text, focus text field, default text field, and then our button, and then our rectangle background. So we'll rename this BG. So because we haven't filled out the city, we want to actually make a disabled version of the button, but we'll actually go through the process the same way we did with the text fields and create a symbol for the button. We're going to call this one button. We're going to create a group. We're going to call this version ready. Let's double click this to go to that symbol in the symbols page. We're going to duplicate this button with Command D. We'll rename this version of it and call it, actually we'll call it disabled. And now we're going to decrease the fill of the background to 50%. We're going to add that background blur like we did on the other one. And we'll decrease the fill of the text to maybe 30% with just tapping the number 3. So again, this one hasn't changed. This is the button ready. But we'll go ahead and insert from the document the button disabled. We'll delete that one. And now this one is actually much less, it's not clickable at the moment. Maybe that's the design that we have for a button that can't be clicked. One thing I will go and remove again is the shadow on the button. So now we have the disabled version, and just like with the text field, we can quickly change from disabled to ready. We're going to keep the disabled version. For the button label, we'll do sign up now, maybe. So this is our start screen. Maybe we've already typed something in. Let's rename this one to, we'll just do it by numbers. We'll just do 0, 1. We'll duplicate this whole artboard. Now we'll change the focus from this one, this first text field. We'll make that default view, and we'll make this second one in focus. Now, one thing to note is that when you change the symbol that's being referenced over here in the inspector, it doesn't actually rename the layer because the layer can be anything, and then you can change the status as much as you, or the actual symbol as much as you like. But for this one, because this is the currently now the focus version, I like to keep things really consistent. You'll find your own way of naming, like layer naming, but it is really important that it's at least consistent. So we'll name this one focus, and we'll name this one default, which is actually the name of the symbol that it's referencing. So how do we get from this screen to this screen when we go to the preview? Well, we can actually make this text field tappable. The way we'll do that is we'll go into the symbol. Now, any instance of default, we're going to add a new layer on top of all of these, which is a hotspot layer. We're going to do the H keyword shortcut to insert that. I'm going to put that over the whole thing. So 335 by 69. And we can choose a layer to reference this to or to target it to. We're going to just press escape to not target it to anything at the moment. But now, inside of this guy, we've got the text field background, type something, label, and now a hotspot layer. You don't actually see it. To view all of the hotspots, you can do Control F at any point. That'll show all the hotspots in your document. We might go back to that in a minute. We'll return to the instance. Now, anytime you have this disabled or the default text box, you can actually see this new override option, which is hotspot. So when you're on this first screen, we're going to have this selected, and the hotspot destination, we're going to choose page 1. Then we have 0, 1 copy. We will go in and rename this artboard to 0, 2. Now check this out. If we go to preview, by default we are actually on this 0, 2 page we can select any page to go to, or rather artboard to go to at the top here. I'm going to go to 0, 1, and I can flag this. That'll make it one of the starting points. I think that's what they call the flagged versions. But now, I've now created a hotspot over the default text box view, which means that if I hover over this, I can now see that I have my clickable cursor. And if I click that, it'll take me to the next screen. That's kind of nice. What I will do is go back. I can't edit it here in the inspector for overrides, but I'll go back into the hotspot, and I'll make it so that we don't have an animation, because we don't want to animate between just like doing these. So this is the no animation, no artboard animation button. So we'll go back. Preview that just to test it once more. Then it just switches automatically. We can press this back button that's built into Sketch. Now we haven't done anything with the back button here, but check this out. If we press go, the back button actually already is set up by default in the Apple iOS Sketch library to go back to the previous artboard. So that can be pretty useful. Now, just for clarity's sake, this wouldn't probably be a very common thing if you were to be cycling through text fields, if you press the back button to go back a text field, but that's a bit of a detail that we don't have to worry about for the moment. For the sake of walking through, this can actually work for us. This back button was added originally to go back to the kind of landing screen, which we haven't designed in this instance, but we don't have to worry about that too much at the moment. So we can add one more screen that's from 0, 2, we'll do to 0, 3, and then this one will be having entered something for the city. So the sign up now button is still disabled, but once you enter something, so we'll do data for World City. Apparently we live in Savannah. Now the sign up button will do as ready because we've entered something for both text fields. So the button is still called button disabled, but we'll call this button ready. We can call this whatever we'd like, but it is important that it's referencing the specific thing, and that generally you have unique layer names. This is especially important if you want to get to any motion design later on down the road. I can't emphasize that enough. It's very important that you organize your layers. So we could even go further and be like, group these symbols and call them like active area or something like that. But we don't have to worry about that too much at the moment. So to get from this screen where we have no text filled in the city to this screen where we have the text filled in, what we will do is actually built into the keyboard. The keyboard has some prototyping built in as well. Weirdly enough, I think that the light keyboard, the light alphanumeric keyboard, has it built in and the dark one doesn't. This is just something I noticed that may be a little bit of a bug in Apple's Sketch library. Not a big deal, but we're using the light one. So we'll go down to the very bottom of the override options, and under this return key, so we have this return and then we have all the options underneath of it, we have links to, just like we did with the links to option that we created with the hotspot. We'll do links to page 1 and then 0, 3. Now we see that the go button goes over to page 3. So check this out. So if I start at the beginning, I can click on this field to switch where I'm focused, and that we changed those manually. And now I should have a new one. Now Sketch can be kind of glitchy actually with this with the preview and the prototyping options. Usually what fixes it, it's not actually showing up. It's saying, hey, you can click the back button, but the go isn't working even though we just added that. Usually if you close the window with Command W, and then open it back up, it kind of restarts it. Usually this will do it, and we see it does. So now the go button does in fact fill it like we wanted to, going to artboard number 3, and now we have the active sign up button and the text fields both filled out. We'll go and add a hotspot on the sign up button as well. So the ready button is clickable, whereas the disabled button is not in this case. H. We'll create a new screen. Let's duplicate this again. We'll rename this one to done. We'll remove all these. And we'll just say, great. This is kind of our confirmation screen. Now we just added the option to do a hotspot. From this one, we'll link to done. Now, when we walk through it, if we start at the beginning, we can click on this text field to change the focus. That goes to the second artboard. We can press the return button on the default keyboard, and then we can press the sign up now button to go to done. Now, unfortunately, Sketch's prototyping again kind of glitched out on us, so we'll close this and open it back up. Walk through this. Sign up now button is now clickable. And we can see what's clickable. If we click anywhere that can't be clicked, it'll just highlight these in orange. We'll click that. That'll take us to grade. That's it.